Hi everyone.
Hey
Welcome back to
everyone.
another AMA.
Yeah, just in case you don't know, my name is Ethan Zerka, and over here is my good friend and business partner, Sakib Alam. Sakib, although has a, we'll say, an international name, he actually is a U.S. citizen. He was born and raised here in the United States. And then later in life, he had to go to Bangladesh, where his family is from, and settle his grandfather's estate and take care of family affairs there. And
That's
when we
great.
first met, Sakib, do you remember we did this? We did this
Yeah,
podcast. How long have we been working together? Maybe 2 months,
yeah. About 2 months after we started.
or was it longer? Were we working together almost like 6 or 7 months before we did this podcast?
Uh, I know we started with the Charlie Shrem podcasts, and then
Okay, well,
we
if we
moved
did the
into
Charlie
the
Shrims first, then we were working together almost a
yeah,
year before we started doing our own podcasts. before we
yeah.
before we came together. But in that time together that we worked together, we became really good friends. And because Sakib was in Bangladesh and I was in the U.S., we never got to meet face to face. And then eventually we decided to leave Crypto Mining Tools, which was a joint venture, or I was partners with Scott Offord on. And we created our own company, A6Z, and the rest has kind of been history. We decided to
That's right.
make a sister office in Dubai and move you and your family to Dubai so you and I
Mm-hmm.
could visit each other more frequently because that was kind of a good halfway point between the United States and Bangladesh.
Exactly.
So yeah, I kind of wanted to start off today. Thank you everybody for coming along. I wanted to start off today just kind of going back in history, just to show how involved Sakib and myself have been in the mining industry, and we've interviewed several prominent people in the mining industry. I wouldn't say John McAfee was prominent in mining, but he was definitely
Crypto.
a very famous person and an entertaining guest, to say the least. Um, but if you look at any of the things that are going on in terms of large scale mining operations today, a lot of these guys are the guys that are behind it. If we look at Mike Hamilton, he was the CIO of Grid, and Grid has gone on. They now
Mhm.
have a deal with Intel, and they're using Intel's chips to make miners basically privately for
Intel
their
chips,
own
yeah.
operations. Sakib, do you know off the top of your head how many megawatts Grid has? If memory
I,
serves, it's like
I,
200 megawatts or something like that. Like, if just my memory is working correctly today.
I'll have to check, but yeah, I think it's around that number.
And this goes all with people all around the world. Obviously, Mike Hamilton is here in the United States. We've got Juan Pinto, Doctor Miner, and they are
Dr.
out of
Miner.
Venezuela. Do you remember them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
And they have some really large operations in Venezuela. You guys may have heard of Mining Disrupt. Fernando Rivero worked
Yeah.
with Mining Disrupt. He doesn't work with them anymore. And if I can maybe share some some really personal details, Fernando really liked to smoke a lot of weed. I mean, that guy was blazed every time I've ever seen him. Um, we'll just kind of go through here. We've got Kyle Herbron from Frontier
Herring.
Mining. Yeah, Kyle was a great guest. He's a good friend of mine. We still remain really good friends to this day.
Yeah.
Greg Garman. What is Greg doing? He's still in like deployment and repair, right? He's got a big deployment and repair
Yeah.
company.
That's what he's doing right now. Yeah.
And then we've got Rob Walter, who,
Rob.
yeah, we have a lot of funny stories with Rob because we've done a lot of business with him. But he works with InvestView, which is also a public mining company, one of the few public mining companies. You've got Riot,
Hmm.
you've got Marathon, you've got InvestView. Let's see who else stands out. Devin Blitzer,
Evan Blitzer.
yeah, Devin with Bring
He's
Your Own
working with
Energy.
oil and
So
gas.
Devin was a pioneer, a trailblazer in the getting the Bitcoin
Flare
mining
gas.
industry into flare gas. Yeah, getting stranded gas and getting this flare
Mm-hmm.
gas. For those of you who don't know, whenever you drill down for oil, you don't just find oil, you also find lots of natural gas. And because the oil is very valuable, it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense to build out pipes or figure out a way to get it from a remote site, to a processing station. But many times, because the natural gas is so cheap in the market, it doesn't make any sense. And so what they do is they just flare it into the atmosphere, and they pay millions of dollars a month in EPA fines because it's cheaper to do that and get the oil than it is to build a pipeline and sell it on the market or do something productive with it. Well, what Devin was doing is he was selling these big gas generator turbine gensets that could go on these remote sites. They could harvest the natural gas right there on site, convert it to electricity, and then send that electricity to mining containers and mine Bitcoin with it. So instead of these oil drilling sites polluting the environment and having to pay millions of dollars of fines every month to the EPA, they could then harvest that stranded gas, that flare gas, turn it into something productive like electricity, and then mine Bitcoin with it. Let's see. Who else? I mean, everybody's heard of Brains, Brains OS. Brains
Oh,
makes a firmware for the
brains, of
miners.
course.
Brains also does slush
Mm-hmm.
pool. And Pavel's a really good guy. Jan is a really good guy out of Brains. I'm good friends with all the people at Brains.
Yeah.
Marshall Holbrook,
I
he,
believe we interviewed both of them.
yeah, we did. We did Jan and we did Pavel. Marshall Holbrook is also into the flare gas side of things. He works
Mm-hmm.
primarily, well, Devin works mostly on like Texas oil fields and things like that. Marshall worked more on the East Coast, in Kentucky and places like that. Oh, Matt DeSouza.
Matt.
Oh man, Matt DeSouza and I were. I want to say like he was my first like high level friend, like with somebody that was really high level in the industry, and he and I became really good friends after we did the podcast. Unfortunately, he died of cancer, but he was the head of Blockware, and now Mason is the head of Blockware, and Mason and Matt are like night and day difference. Like I got along really well with Matt, but sometimes Mason's a little bit. I love you, Mason. Don't get me wrong. I love you, dude. You know we're cool, but Matt, you'll never be a replacement for Matt. I'm just sorry. We talked about that. Shannon Squires.
Yeah.
Shannon now is with Compass Mining, but he also worked
Yep.
with
He's
us
with
as part
Compass.
of the crypto mining tools team. That's initially
Mm-hmm.
how he got his break into the industry, and yeah, he's pretty high level up now for Compass Mining, I believe. Then we've got Kevin Shaw.
Yeah.
Kevin is probably the most amazing accountant I have ever met in my entire life. If you want to know like every little finite detail about how crypto pertains to taxes and what you can do to shelter from those taxes and things like that, this guy is the man to know. He is a forensic accountant, I believe, out of California, but his knowledge of tax law and exceptions, exemptions, and all those things, it's just mind blowing. Like
Mm-hmm.
he is like the most knowledgeable human being I know on earth about when it comes to like money systems and how they work and what gets taxed and what doesn't get taxed. Jan, here's Jan from Slush Pool.
Leah. Oh,
Leah
Jan.
Thompson,
Yeah.
Girl Con Crypto. She came very early on when she only had like 5K followers on Twitter. Now she has 250,000
Mm-hmm.
followers. I've reached out to her multiple times trying to get her to, promote the Mineopoly project, but I guess she's outgrown us. She was a great guest to have on the podcast, but she
Yeah.
just won't respond to any of my attempts to message her. JP Barrick, here's another guy. This kid was crazy, and I say kid because he started mining when he was like what 14 or 15.
The 17. Four.
No, he
Okay.
was like 14 or 15. He was mining in his shed in his backyard, and now he's a multi-millionaire. He owns,
Yeah.
yeah, several
He
mining
started mining
operations.
stores.
Yeah, I mean, just amazing. Kids are, and he's still young. He's only like 22 or 23 now. I don't even think he went to
Yeah.
college. Who would need to go to college if you're making $1 million a day mining crypto? Um, oh, Apolline. Apolline was a great guest.
Yeah,
She worked
she was
for the
really good. Yeah.
Cambridge Research Center, and she was a great contact to have because we were able to get her in touch with a lot of the institutional farms and the connections that we have in the industry. And she was able to gather, data and metrics and things like that. And so, when you read these news articles that it says, Bitcoin mining is using more energy than the entire country of Finland. Well, she's the person that put all that data together.
Right.
Rolf was awesome.
Ralph, he was really
Rolf
good. Yeah.
was an inspiration to me, and what's kind of amazing is when I was beginning as mining, I was watching Rolf's videos to learn how to mine, and it kind of came full circle where Rolf came onto our podcast. And if you guys ever
Yeah.
want to watch the
I used
podcast,
to
yeah,
follow I used to follow Rolf because he started like Zen, and we were both mining like he taught me how to mine GPU mine Zen, which became Horizon. But yeah, he was one of the best GPU miners that I've met in my
pioneer
time.
right there. Rolf is a pioneer in the
Yeah.
industry. He's an OG, like you and me. Yeah, just keeps going on and on and on. We've got Mike and Scott from SupplyBit. I
Supply bit.
actually, what was it, hedge hash? I came up with that word, that vocabulary, hedge hash.
Yes, you did.
And he's marketing that. And yes, hedge hash has become now a huge just hedge fund term. It's now a utility that hedge funds use. They use crypto as a way to hedge against inflation and other market variances and things like that. Fascinating things what he was doing. Then we've got Henry with
Yeah.
Epic. um,
He's our
Henry,
favorite.
he's
I
a,
think he was my favorite.
he's your favorite. I love Henry a lot, but what I like about Henry is like this guy knows everything about manufacturing electronics. Like he can look,
Yeah.
what people don't understand is all these chips, they're built into a foundry, right? And that's like a special factory that uses these silicon wafers and all these processes and things like that. And these foundries, you know, I can't just walk up to a foundry, even if I had $10 million and say, here's $10 million, make this chip for me. So what you have to do is you have to give them a chip mask, and you have to go through a production cycle, and you have to reserve their time and their facility through the production cycle. And Henry was able to reverse engineer, like he could tell us within plus or minus 2% exactly how many miners each manufacturer was making, because he could
Mhm.
look at their reservation time on the foundry, and then knowing the foundry's production cycle, he could figure out how many chips they could produce, and then based off of how many chips they could produce, he could then kind of reverse engineer, okay, that means that they're going to make this many miners. So he was a really cool guy to know. And we even had some, I don't want to say experimental, but like new manufacturers come on the block and say they have something new, and we would send those chips off to Henry, and he would put them in his little science
Mhm.
lab and take them apart and look at them under microscopes, and he'd be like, no, this is actually a what's
Yeah.
miner design, like this is not like he was just breaking
Yeah.
it down. Like all
Exactly.
these other people were trying to come at us and like, yeah, we've got this new design and we're going to take over the market. And it's like, no, 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 you're just using old what's miners chips. So he was fascinating guy to know. And we actually did we did Henry twice.
Two interviews. Yeah.
Right, within like
Yeah, I believe
a few
he
weeks of
was with
each other, right?
AMD.
I'm sorry.
Exactly. He was with AMD, and I think he was responsible for like the Xbox and PlayStation
Yeah,
GPU
he was like a head
architecture as well.
engineer with AMD. And if you guys have ever played an Xbox or like an older generation PlayStation, then you've actually been playing with Henry's technology and you didn't even know it.
Mhm.
John Belizaire is awesome. The relationship that we formed with
Luna.
him, he became one of our big institutional clients later, when Sakib and I decided to go on our own. But he is the CEO of Soluna, which is also a very large institutional
Luna.
level mining operation, and they have a lot of facilities in Kentucky. I can't. I've got a non-disclosure agreement, so
Hmm.
I can't go into too many details. If there's people that I'm not going into details with, It's not because I don't know, or it's not because I don't want to share. It's because I can't, because I signed a piece of paper that says I'm not supposed to talk. But I can just say that we have a very good connection and a very good relationship with Soluna. We've done a lot of work with them. We've helped them with a lot of deployments and a lot of build outs. And we've got Ethan Vera from Luxor.
Luxor.
You guys may have heard of Luxor. Luxor is a mining pool, but they also broker hardware, and they also collaborate with Brains to provide their own
Mhm.
software, or firmware, I should say. And if we look up here, we've got Edward Evanson, also from Brains Slush Pool. And oh, Scott Johnson. How can I forget Digital Shovel Scott Johnson? Scott
Oh,
Johnson and I are really good friends on Facebook and in real life. Scott's beard game is a little bit weak in this picture, but now he's got like this huge beard, and we kind of had a beard grow off during COVID to see who could grow the massive beard, and he's got me beat by now. I'm trying to catch back up with him. But yeah, Scott Johnson, Digital Shovels. He makes the containers for the mining rigs, and he makes one of the best containers on the market, in my opinion. And that's not just me being biased because he's a friend, but because I have been an integral part. When I give him criticisms and feedbacks about what he's doing, he's always taken everything that I've said to heart, and he's always, implemented that in the next design, the next generation. And his products have just gotten better and better and better over time. Absolutely amazing guy. Um,
hmm
but yeah, guys, I put this link up in, I think, the Discord questions channel. If you ever get a chance, if you're bored and don't have anything to do, just a wealth of information to learn about the mining industry, and who's who in the mining industry can be found on our old podcast page. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
All right, enough reminiscing. Let's go into the present. Right now, there's kind of a crisis going on in Texas. I know that there are a lot of other projects that are
hmm
more U.S. based or U.S. oriented, and we can see now that those projects are having troubles. From what I'm hearing from my contacts and my sources, 90%, yeah, seeing a 90% curtailment. So 90% of all the Bitcoin mining
hmm
in Texas. And Saki, what would you say there? I know for a fact that when we went to the Bitmain site, that was a gigawatt site. That was a gigawatt of power.
Right.
And that was, what, 4 years ago? So, I mean, there must be 5, maybe even 6 gigawatts of power being
That's
used
what
in
I'm.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, about 5 to 6 gigawatts of power, and I believe that for keeping these machines down, they were like I believe were paid about $50 million just
$31 million
to keep their
is what I
machines
read.
off.
Riot. So
31.
when you get on this level, guys, you're not just paying your electricity costs like month to month like you do at your house, right? At your house, you use electricity, you get a bill at the end of the month, and then you pay that bill, right? At this level in the game, what they're doing is they're purchasing power futures. So they don't have to pay a month to month bill. They actually own power years into the future. They buy it cheap today as a future speculation. And then when it comes to that time, if they have to curtail it, what they do is they sell that ownership, that option that they own of the power, they sell it back to the grid and they make money off of it. So that's how the
hmm
level of the game is played when you get to the institutional scale. Like the average person like you and I, we can't well, first of all, nobody has millions of dollars to buy blocks of power, like a gigawatt of power into the future. But these companies do, and that's what they do is they buy it off the market as a future commodity, and then when it comes to being used, if it has any kind of trouble or any kind of issue, they can resell it into the markets. As Ryan made $31.7 million as a power credit. So these guys are making money whether they have machines turned on or not, right? They're going to make
hmm
money if they're running the machines. They're going to make money by accumulating Bitcoin. If they've got the machines turned off, they're going to make money by selling the power with a markup, with a margin in it. It's pretty crazy when you
And they
think
actually
about it,
made more this month than they did Bitcoin mining
right?
last month.
Some of these guys are actually like hoping. They're like, please, please, tell us to
hmm
turn off the machines. A few years back, there was a huge freak ice storm that hit Texas. gosh, I don't know. It was like some strange month too. It was like May or something. It was like really bizarre.
Hmm.
And Texas lost all of its power. And many of the mining farms during that time sold their power back into the grid, and they made an absolute killing, just an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, fantastic stuff. To know about it. Our industry, once you get into it and you understand the nuts and bolts of it, there's always just something fascinating going on that you can catch up with. And speaking of something fascinating, Sakib, you just got back from Oman and you met
Yes, that's correct.
with Jod, who is the founder, the
Hmm.
CEO and founder of Exawatt or Exahertz, sorry.
Exahertz.
Yeah,
Exahertz, yeah.
yeah, exahertz.com. Let's see if we can pull that up. Let's reload. There we go. All right, and this is the man right here over to
That's
the
Chad.
yeah, this is Jod. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see everything a little bit clearly. Um, and we learned some really interesting things about Jod. The
Yes, we
first
did.
thing that I found interesting is that he's been in the industry a lot longer than we thought. Or at least he's been
That's correct,
around in
yeah.
circles. We, for just whatever reason, he's never crossed into our circles. But what I find really,
Hmm.
really interesting is, he does know the big dogs. He knows the Luxors. He knows the Riots. He knows the Marathons. He knows, all the big circles that we know. And everybody and their mama, since he's made his announcement of doing a $1.1 billion operation in Oman, they've all been trying to reach out to him. They've all been trying to get an interview or a business meeting or, just something happening with him, right? Because when you're in a $1.1 billion project, there's
Hmm.
a lot of room, there's a lot of opportunity. But he's turned down everybody. He's refused everybody, but he didn't say no to us. So, Saki, why don't you tell us a little bit about your trip to Oman and meeting Jod for the first time? There's Jod Frederick Karma, and what it was like.
Sure. Sure. I was actually very excited that had accepted to meet with me. And, when I reached Oman, I headed directly to his office. And it was around 8:30, 9 p.m. at night. He's one of those people that likes to get his hands on and stays late in the office and is passionate about the industry. And he's not just in it for the money, but he's actually in it for the decentralization and creating the infrastructure that's going to change to lead Oman to a digital transformation, basically. And we covered a series of topics during our conversation, all the way from his power source and what he's mining with, what challenges he's faced, and where he's going in the future.
Well, first of all, tell
I
them
was very,
about
very
the Oman construction company that reached out to us for that initial, because before
mhm.
we even heard of Jod, before we even heard of Exahertz, um, we were tapped on the shoulder by an Oman construction company. I
Correct.
guess it was the Sultan's construction company or something. So go ahead and tell that story and about the Chinese and about the 10-cent
Sure,
power cost. Well, and say what I
sure,
said to
sure,
them about that, what I had told them.
sure. So we about in October 2022, we were tapped on the shoulder by this company from Oman. They said that they're connected to the Sultanate there, and what they're planning to do is do an 11 megawatt test run for Oman
Well, they
with
told
miners
us
that
it
are
was
going to be
11
cooled.
megawatts to start, but it was going to be like 1.1 gigawatts
Hmm.
or 1.2 gigawatts total.
Correct. Yes. And what they told us is that they're backed by the Chinese, who want to pay about 10 cents per kilowatt hour, and in order to win this bid to mine in Oman. And Ethan, he at that point, Bitcoin was at 60K, and everyone was trying to get power and trying to start mining as soon as possible. Ethan told them that it's pretty much, you guys are going down a bad road because you're not going to be sustainable at 10 cents per kilowatt hour. And when I went to
And
see
I also
Jad,
know the
that's
Chinese, and I know that the Chinese are just going to
yes.
bail, right? They're going to skip out on the
Mm-hmm.
power bill. They're going to grab all their machines and they're just going to overnight just disappear. And that's what I told them. I said, "You guys are making a bad deal. You're setting yourself up for failure." Go ahead.
Exactly. And then Jad came into the picture in Oman, I believe maybe a few months after that, and he went directly to the Omani royals and the government, and he told them that
Well, wait.
if the Chinese is willing to pay,
You're missing out here. Okay,
go
so
ahead.
it was shortly after that that the correction happened, right? That Bitcoin started to tank,
Yes. Yeah.
like tank really bad.
Right.
And sure enough, those Chinese, they did exactly what I said they're going to do. They pulled out. They skedaddled out of there, right?
Yeah.
And then Jod comes in the picture. Okay,
Exactly.
now continue the story.
Yeah, I was gonna link it with what Jad told the government, but yeah,
Okay,
it's
go ahead. Yeah.
pretty much so he told the government that if you let the Chinese, if you're gonna win this, if you're gonna give this to the Chinese, make sure that you have at least 6 months advance from them, and because what's gonna happen is Bitcoin is going to fall, and they're not gonna be sustainable, and they're just gonna run, um, and when that happened, which is exactly what Ethan said as well, they were glad that they didn't give the bid to the Chinese, and they went with Jad, and they have trust in him. They have all the trust and support for him now because they know that he
Well, he
understands
delivered.
the market cycles.
He told
Yeah,
them we
exactly.
can't do it at this power cost. So what's his power cost, Akib? You think 3.5 cents?
Yeah, he said between 3 to 4 cents.
Okay, that's 3.5 cents. let me CEO translate that. 3.5 cents. Actually, I'm going to say 3.2 cents, but I'll get it out of him, guys, because
Right.
I'm headed to Dubai the end of this month, and I'm going to fly. Jod, well, okay, tell them more. Tell them about Jod saying like we never have to pay to go to
hmm
Oman again. He owns a hotel. If we ever want to come, we just let him know, and he's going to arrange everything, and we get to stay in a hotel. Go ahead and tell them about that good
Yeah.
stuff.
So So Jad is actually very well known now in Oman, especially in Salalah. He's got three mining facilities in Oman, and because he has the government's support and trust, um, all the hotels and pretty much people are calling him and thanking him for putting Oman on the map, and he has the respect of everyone there. He does. I was staying the hotel that I was staying at. I later found out that Jad owns a share of it, and he said, next time we come over, especially with Ethan, that he wants to, as the host, take care of us, take care of and then make sure that 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 obviously we're his guests, and he wants to give us an all expenses paid
He
trip
said, "Don't
anytime.
pay the bill." He said, "When they give you the bill, don't pay the
Yes, he
bill."
said. Yeah, he said just say it's for Jad.
Say it's for John. So that was just absolutely amazing that we got the opportunity to meet with him. We learned a lot about his mining operations. As you guys might know, we told you that the S19 XP series is junk. He is running nothing but S19 XP Hydros, which are the most efficient machines on the market,
hmm
which I don't blame him. I would do myself, with the exception that just from what we've heard in the market, they're junk. They don't work. But he's found out a way to get
Yeah.
them operational.
Yeah, he's been 99.5% has 99.5% uptime since February. And that's only because he's done a lot of testing and he's made the customizations to make sure that the ant boxes he's using and the S19 XP hydros he's using um, are situated correctly, and there are no
So
issues
can
with
we
them.
give some insights as to what those changes are? What he's doing is that
Sure.
secret sauce? Are we allowed to say it or are we not allowed to say it?
Uh, yeah, he kind of wanted me to keep it under wraps,
Okay,
but
okay, not allowed to say it. Sorry, guys. Would love to give you the secret sauce information. If you want secret sauce, you can join A6Z as a company, or I guess you would have to join our sister company, A6Z East. But yeah, if you become a member of the
Hmm.
company, then we can tell you about secret sauce stuff. but what I
And
was
that's only because, he's taken a lot of time and effort to and then done a lot of testing to come to where he is today with these XP Hydros and the ant boxes.
what it pertains to us and in terms of Monopoly is I'm now doing a rethink of what we're going to do for Monopoly should we get to the half megawatt point. Initially, the
Hmm.
idea was, we do a build out of a structure on site, and then we do air cooled miners and we run those. And I think we had a really good plan with the M50, 118
Hmm.
terahash at 28 watts a terahash. Those are a really good plan, but you know what? You can't beat an XP Hydro. It's only 21.5 watts a terahash, which is significant. I mean, that's a huge difference. And I'm going to be collaborating with Jod to see what we can do to leverage his buying power because he's literally buying billions of dollars worth of miners. And that means he can probably get them lower than even we can get them through our vendors. And
Hmm.
I'm going to see what we can do to leverage his buying power to put our order or Monopoly's order in there to see if we can get the hydros going. Because if he can prove to me that he can get them stable and he can get them operational, which according to Skib, he proved to you thoroughly, correct? Right. But I'm going to
Hmm.
do my due
Yes, he
diligence
did.
because, like it's, you know, more eyes, more brains are, better than less. So
Hmm.
I'm going to meet with him, do my due diligence, but we're going to try. I'm not making any promises, but I'm going to try to set that as a goal if I can make it a reality. If the numbers check out, if everything, adds up and makes sense to me, then that's the direction I want to go because obviously those hydros are going to be more efficient, which means later on when they have a resale in the market, they're going to be more valuable. And you know what? We might even be just selling them to John. Right? John might be our buyer because he's
Yeah.
he's right next door. So it's always good to have friends, and it's always good to know people like this, and to cultivate these relationships out, and to just grow your opportunity. And that's what you guys have with Monopoly is it's not um, like what we're going to do to build out Monopoly for you. It's your opportunity to get engaged and to have a voice and to be a part of the things that we're doing already in the industry. And so, when I hear people are saying, what are you going to do to make this happen? What are you going to do to make that happen? I appreciate the questions, and obviously, if there's some criticism or feedback, I'm just like so many other great leaders, I always listen to it and I try to incorporate it and improve it. And we've been getting feedback from day one about Monopoly as a website and the process and everything that has been suggested to me that makes sense. We've incorporated that. We've instituted that into the Monopoly
Hmm.
website. And I want to continue to keep doing that. But, I kind of want to set the stage of the psychology here is that we don't work for Monopoly. If we work for Monopoly and you guys are dependent on us for Monopoly to be a success, then under the Howie test, it becomes a security. When you're dependent on us
Hmm.
to thrive and survive, then it becomes a security. We don't want it to be that way. And so that's why we want the community to come together and participate. And I'm seeing it. I mean, you guys are really stepping up. You guys are starting to answer other people's questions, people that are coming in. You're bringing in new
Yes.
people, and it's great. We want to continue that because that's the path Monopoly needs to be on. I wanted to, now that I've talked a little bit about the website, I wanted to segue into some things. So, um, initially, when we created the timer on the front page of the website, that was a stopgap that was done at, I believe, towards the end of Tranche 1, Sakib, I think is when we instituted.
Antoine. Yeah,
And
that's correct.
what
Yeah.
it was is it was just a generic JavaScript timer. It wasn't connected to the blockchain. It wasn't synced up with the blockchain. And because of that, there was some synchronization issues, right? When you're dealing with time and you're dealing with
Hmm.
developers in different time zones, time can get a little confusing, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of confusion. And to straighten that out, I told our devs, we need to have it synced with the blockchain. And so we did that. And when we synced it with the blockchain, we realized that the bot timer that was going on in the Discord, it was out of sync because again, it wasn't connected to the blockchain. So, you just put in a random
That's
date
right.
and a random time, and then it just, keeps saying, okay, you got 1 day left, you got 2 days left. You just, if we all took out our phones and we set, a countdown timer, and we're all in different time zones, then that countdown's going to go off at different times in different places, right? And so there was that kind of confusion. But now it is synced up to the blockchain, and it uses your browser's time settings to set a universal time for you. So it's going to set a very precise and accurate time for when the contract will expire. And another thing that we learned as well is we thought that when Tranche 2 expired, it would just immediately just jump onto the next tranche and go to Tranche 3. Well, what we learned is that at the end of each tranche, I have to go in and log on to the contract itself and manually
Manually.
execute, it going to the next tranche. So now that we know that, we'll have things be a little bit more slick. But what's going to happen now when this timer counts down is the website is going to go into, under construction mode. It's going to say,
Maintenance.
yeah, it's going to go under maintenance. This tranche is closed, under maintenance. Please stand by. And then when I initiate the next tranche, then everything will come back live again. So hopefully that will avoid the confusion that we've had in this last transition from
Hmm.
Tranche 2 to Tranche 3. But it should be a much better experience. And, that's the thing about me is I know the bee's knees, everything there is to know about mining, but the NFT space is still new to both me and Sakib. And so every time we're
Yes.
continually improving, we're continually trying to make the experience and trying to make everything happen more effectively, more efficiently. And one of the things that we've added is this little meter here that shows the entire project in a visual perspective and where we are in the project. And right now we're about 30%
Yes.
of the way to the half megawatt minimum, right? So
Hmm.
I,
Yes.
I still
30%. Yeah.
think there's plenty of opportunity. There's plenty of chance that we will get to the half megawatt minimum. Um, if not, then so be it. It just wasn't meant to be. I'm not gonna feel like I failed. I'm just gonna feel like the market wasn't there. And especially with what I'm
Ready.
hearing,
Yeah.
what is going on with some of these other projects, I really feel for you guys. I now regret that we waited so long to come into this space because I think we should have come into the space 6 months ago, Sakib.
Then we would have been, I would say, minted out most likely.
Oh yeah, I think this whole project would have been sold out easily if we'd done it 6 months ago.
Hmm.
But 6 months ago, Sakib and I, we really weren't. We knew about the NFT space, but we were all just like, who's gonna pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a picture? Like it never made sense to us. And it wasn't until we started
Right.
having some of these other mining projects, these mining NFT projects, come and ask us, to buy equipment and gear and advice, about what location and what power costs and things like that. That's when we began to realize, like, oh man, we better do something, or this is going to make the mining industry look bad. And we actually found a utility that could be connected to an NFT, right? So Horde, I think, was the
So,
first one to do it, and we were like, why didn't they just do that from the beginning? And why didn't they ask us to help them with
yeah.
mining? Because that, that's how they got the money for the
That's
project
what
in the
we
first
do.
place. Is yeah, we took money made from
Yeah.
mining to be put into a project that ultimately became a mining project. So it seems like a really roundabout way. Um, and when we were burned like that, Sakib and I were just like, what can you do? And then,
We have
these,
to do it right.
well, and, then these other projects start coming around and we were shaking our heads. They were telling, their power costs and they were telling us about where
Hmm.
they were going to run their operations. And we were just like, nope, nope, that's not going to work. That's not good, guys. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did my level best. I went to my contacts and my
Yeah.
friends in some of these locations. I can't name any names, but I, had them reach out directly and just lay these guys out and say, look, you don't want to come here because ABC and XYZ, and this is going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. And they just straight up ignored me and just kept on going.
Hmm.
So, what can you do? Well, here's what you can do. I said, Skip, remember that site Monopoly that I was talking about? Let's make it into an NFT project. Let's at
Yeah.
least give something real for the NFT space to sink its teeth into. It may not get wings.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, I think it will still go down as a legend. Like, these guys came on, they said what they were going to do, they do what they said, and they came in and they came out, and everybody who got on, they all benefited from it, and the people that missed out, they feel like they missed out.
Exactly.
um, but yeah, so I think we can get there. I said things were going to really start going crazy at Tranche 4 and Tranche 5, and I still
Lunch
stand
for.
by that prediction.
Hmm.
I still stand by that prediction. We did have somebody saying that they were having trouble minting, but as we can see now, we have 14 mints under Tranche 3. So
Hmm.
it appears everything is working correctly. Let me refresh this page here. Oh, we beat the 300 mark right here while we're talking. That is awesome, guys.
Woohoo!
So yeah, I think Tranche 3 is when we're going to really see the momentum going, and then Tranche 4, Tranche 5, that's when we're going to get that parabolic and peak. And
Yeah.
at this point, my concern really isn't if we, well, if we get a half a megawatt, that should be enough to do. I mean, we're going to lose money, but we'll just go ahead and step out and build the full megawatt, and then we'll just fill it with our operations.
Hmm.
I think that was the game plan.
Yeah.
Um, so if we get over the half megawatt mark, let's say we get 2/3 of a megawatt or something like that, we'll just go ahead and build out the full megawatt, and
We'll
then we'll
just do
fill it.
1 megawatt.
Yeah, we'll fill it with our operations. If we get over a megawatt, I guess we could just do a full megawatt and then a half megawatt. Like, we'll have to figure out the math, but if it ends up
We'll
falling
have to see.
somewhere
Yeah.
in like some where it's not cleanly 1 megawatt or cleanly a half a megawatt, we'll have to figure out the details of where things land. And nobody's even asked me that question yet, but now that I can see this graph, because I'm a visual thinker, I can see, okay,
Hmm.
if it lands in certain places, it'll kind of put us in a little bit of a conundrum. Like, how we're gonna be able to accommodate all that. If it lands on an even megawatt, no problem, we just build out a megawatt. It lands on an even 2, no problem, we just build out 2. But if it lands somewhere in the middle of no man's land, we'll have to kind of figure out a good plan for that, but we'll make it work. Somebody asked, how many NFTs would the half megawatt be? That would be half of a tranche, and a tranche has 2,000,
1125.
so it'd be 1125 exactly. 1125, and we currently have 302 out of the 1125. Love to buy. We'd love for you to buy an NFT every week too. Another thing that I wanted to go over is we actually had some, and I set myself up for this last night when I said, technically Tranche 2 is over, it's closed. But some people direct messaging Sakib, said, hey, give me the wallet. I'll just send it straight to the wallet. So I went ahead before
Yeah.
I moved the tranche forward. I went ahead and I administrative minted for those people that had already paid overnight. It's my understanding that basically, since the tranche didn't progress, and because tranche 2 was timed out, that really no transactions could happen, right? So the people who kind of
Hmm.
skipped over skipped over that folly, that technical folly, they got in just at the last minute on tranche 2. But we went ahead and did those mints, and also last week, I think 3 days before the closing of tranche 2, I mentioned that I was going to reimburse gas. I extended that to 7 days. So all of you who
Hmm.
minted 7 days up into the end of tranche 2, you got all your gas money back, and you can see that on our gas reimbursement
With
sheet.
crypto, basically.
I'm sorry? Say that again, Sakib?
Yeah. With anyone who minted with crypto.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's only the crypto mints. If you meant with credit card, we can't reimburse that because you pay it out of your credit cards or or whatnot. Um, a new feature that we've added is the monthly yield. Now you've got to understand that this is kind of a retrograde projection. It is not off of today's production numbers. It's off of, you know, understanding that this is where the market's
Hmm.
going to go and this is when we're going to time the sell, and you know, speculatively this is what it's going to come to when it everything happens. Then retrograde from that point, this is what you averaged as your monthly yield. So I just want everybody to understand that clearly, because if you're doing like today's numbers and today's math, you're like, this doesn't make sense. How is this even possible? But it's a retrograde. So based off of the conditions that we sell in Q1 of 2026 during a peak of a bull, and you know these numbers come to light, this is what you can expect as a retrograde average over your monthly yield. Um, we have any other questions?
We just got mints on crypto, so we know that crypto mints are working, and we also got mints on the card, so we know that
Okay,
that's working as
so
well. So uh,
so Sky is saying
maybe there wasn't.
his crypto didn't work. You know, something that's really
It's
important to
possible that
note.
ETH.
Well, right
Go ahead.
now the gas fees are freaking astronomical. Let's take a look at the,
Hmm.
or at least when I just check. Okay, it's back down now. Well, I mean 36 gateway
That's
is
still high.
still pretty high, yeah. But it was at like 70 something the last time I checked it. This is a great site, guys. If you ever get bored and your TV stops working,
Hmm.
just log into this site and watch all these little. You get the little baby ones and the fat ones, and then some of them are like monsters. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I try to do all of my transactions when gas is about half of this, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, it's important to note that when you are doing a mint out and you approve the USDC, you approve the correct amount, because sometimes people have been putting in like 42 or a different number that's incorrect or incompatible with the amount that they're trying to mint. And yeah, $89 gas is outrageous. Yeah, you should definitely wait until things cool off. Things are usually very good over the night, at nighttime. Usually during the U.S. market open daytime, like when the stock market is open, the gas is exceptionally high. So try to avoid that window frame when the U.S. markets are open, and your gas should be pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Weekends are great usually.
Yeah, weekends are great. Another thing too is don't wait till the last second to do your mints. I know for some
Hmm.
of you, you don't have any choice. You know, you might be waiting on funds on an exchange to arrive from your bank account so you can then buy ETH and stuff like that. It can't be helped. If that is your circumstance, if that is your case, please do reach out to Sakib or myself privately, and we'll see if we can help you out. Because you know, I don't want you to miss out just because the USDC price went up $20 or 20 USDC. I say $20, but 20 USDC. It's not really fair, and you know we want to make this a win situation for everyone, right? So this really isn't for us. Although we are running it like a business, we're going to profit off of it like a business. You know, ultimately, we want you guys to be able to leverage our abilities, our experiences, and our opportunities to give back mining back to you guys, so the everyday person can mine again.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has, you know, a couple $1 million to buy a hydro, you know, XP Antminer container and put it in their backyard, and you know they don't have a 2 megawatt transformer they can just, you know, throw underneath the porch and run it off of. Like, you know, that's just not feasible for people anymore.
Hmm.
But with our project, it gives you the ability to have a piece of that, to have a part of that, and that is fundamentally, that's one of
Exactly.
our core values, and we want to make sure that everybody, you know, is given a fair opportunity to that. That's what we're all about. I would, you know, that's the whole thing about memberships. I was really hoping that memberships would take off. You
Hmm.
know, Sky is saying would really love to come and visit your operation. I had this kind of dream or this kind of fantasy that member holders could come to us in Dubai. We would make a special situation with a travel company, like a cheap rate or something like that, and we'd be able to put you guys up
Hmm.
in a really nice hotel or something like that, and kind of get to wine and dine you around in Dubai and take you to our operations, maybe even take you to Oman and take you to $1 billion scale operation with Jod. And um, instead of this being an industry where like Microsoft, like everybody knows who Bill Gates is, but how many people really know him? How many people get to rub elbows with him, or be friends with him? How many people get to walk in to the Microsoft Corporation? Well, we're in a unique place in our industry where you, as an everyday normal citizen, have the ability to get to that level in our industry, and we would love to share that with you guys. That was kind of one of my dreams with this project, is that it would take off to a level where we could do even our own conferences and things like that. Have you guys come in,
Hmm.
and just get to have you guys be a part of this, because that's what mining is. It's not, sure, it's technical stuff,
Yeah.
right? It's buying electricity, buying miners, plugging things in, but it's more communal than that, right? There's more camaraderie in mining than any other industry I know of. Like, we are all brothers in arms, and we all help each
Yeah.
other out, even
That's
though we
what we kind
compete.
of miss from, yeah, like when we first started, Ethan and I mean, we remember how it was back in the hobby mining days, and we kind of want to bring that back because it's not possible for the everyday person to get 2 cents power anymore or to mine in their house anymore. And this is a way that, we can allow that again.
Well, another thing too is mining is brutal. Crypto mining, all
Hmm.
the whole
Yeah.
thing is brutal, and it's one thing to get wrecked all alone by yourself, but when you
Hmm.
get wrecked and you still have friends, right? And like, you can swap your horror stories with my horror stories, and I can swap. It just makes life easier to live, right? Right. when,
Yeah.
when you lose everything, it makes life easier to live when you've got friends to share that with, to share that experience with, to kind of vent that out with. And then conversely, when you're successful, when you figure it out, when you figure
Hmm.
out how to make it, you don't want to do that alone. You don't want to be alone in that. It's so much more enjoyable to do it with your friends, right? With people that are like-minded like you. And that's, I think, why Jod allowed us to come and meet with him. That he responded to us, and he
Yes.
had a meeting with us because he understands this as well. And it's just absolutely phenomenal, guys, that we have an opportunity, not only to do that for ourselves, but even get you guys in at that level or experience that level. And it really is, the friendships that I have in this space are friendships that I will take to me with, to my grave
To the
every day.
grave. Yeah.
All right. Well, it seems like things actually, now is a good time here. I'm going to just read a little bit more of what Sky is saying here. Would love to come visit your operations. Appreciate you both. Be a part of your vision. I'm retiring in 22 months. Can't cash out some of my investments. Well, fantastic, Sky. Yeah, congratulations on retiring. I consider myself and Sakib, we're already retired. We just do what we love every day.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I was in corporate. If you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see I was chief information officer. I did that grind. I used to wear a business suit, and I look good
Hmm.
in a suit. But now it's very rare that you catch me in a suit. Um, and I did that. I did the rat race. I did the hustle and bustle. I did the
Same
grind
here.
every day, and thank goodness. The first time I did mining, just like Sakib's first time that he did mining, I got wrecked. I didn't make my money back. I didn't.
Yeah.
I barely broke even on the machine. Didn't make my money back, but I didn't give up. And 90% of the
Yeah,
people that get
exactly.
in the industry, they get in, they get the wrong machine, they get the wrong power, they don't know what they're doing, and they fail, and then they wash their hands of it and they give up. But 10%. That's just
Yeah.
a small percentage. They stick it out and they say, look, I know I did this wrong and I know I did that wrong and I could have done this better. And they just keep at it. And Sakib and I were one of the lucky ones that did that. And we just kept at it. And then
Hmm.
finally, we became successful at it. And it's been life changing. It's been life changing for the both of us.
Yes.
I would not trade it for the world. Um,
Likewise.
yeah, likewise. All right. It was great having you guys all here. We're going to have another AMA next Friday, probably
Next Friday.
same time, same channel. And I look
Hmm.
forward to seeing you guys all there. And yeah, stay safe out there, guys. There's a lot of imposters. They're trying to impersonate Sakib because they're assuming because he has a foreign name that their thick foreign accent won't be noticed. But Sakib, go ahead and tell everybody how American you are. Say America.
America.
There we go. All right.
B-
Um,
Born in the USA.
exactly. He's born in the USA, and it's just it just shows the ignorance of the scammers that are out there because they think, oh, I can impersonate this guy because they're not going to catch it. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here, and I'm going to stop the video, and hope you guys have a great weekend.